The hotel ballroom was dripping with gold. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen rain, white flowers climbed up silver stands, and soft music floated around the room as rich guests laughed, took pictures, and adjusted their designer clothes. At the far end of the hall, under a huge arch of white roses, Ethan Reed stood in a perfectly tailored black suit, a proud smile stretched across his face. Today was his day, his second wedding, the one he believed would finally match his status. He adjusted his cufflinks and glanced toward the entrance again, impatient. He wasn't just waiting for his bride, he was waiting for someone else. His friends stood around him, grinning and whispering. "Bro, are you sure she's coming?" one of them asked with a smirk. Ethan's lips curled. "She will come," he said calmly. "Lily can't resist watching me win." He had sent the invitation himself, not out of kindness but out of pride. He pictured her walking in with her cheap handbag and faded dress, maybe borrowing shoes from a neighbor. He wanted people to see how far he had climbed and how low she had fallen. He wanted them to look at her and think, so that's the woman he used to be married to. As he turned his head toward the entrance again, the entire room suddenly went quiet. The music kept playing, but the laughter died, the whispers stopped, and every eye turned toward the glass doors. Outside, the sound of an engine cut through the air. Not just any engine. A deep, smooth purr that people knew very well. A black Rolls-Royce slid to a stop in front of the hotel, its body shining under the afternoon sun like polished stone. Even from inside, it demanded attention. People who had been pretending not to care suddenly craned their necks. Phones came out, someone gasped, Ethan's smile froze. The hotel doors opened, and for a second all he could see was the reflection of the chandelier on the glass. Then she stepped in. Lily, the woman he had once called useless, barren, a burden. The woman he had thrown out of his life like trash, but the person walking in now did not look like trash at all. She wore a long, deep blue gown that hugged her figure and flowed around her feet like water. Her natural curls were styled into a neat updo, tiny silver pins shining in her hair. Her skin glowed softly, her makeup was simple but perfect, and there was a calm confidence in her eyes that Ethan did not recognize. On her left and right, two identical little boys held each of her hands, dressed in matching tiny black suits with bow ties. A third boy walked just a step ahead of her, holding a small toy car and scanning the room with wide, curious eyes. Three boys, three little faces, three sets of bright hazel eyes that looked strangely familiar. The triplets. The word moved through the room like wind. "Those are her kids. Since when? I thought she couldn't have children." People stared, confused and curious. Ethan's chest tightened. He knew those eyes. He saw them in the mirror every morning. As Lily walked forward, the boys slowed down, looking around at the decorations, the flowers, the lights. One of them squeezed her hand. "Mom," he whispered softly, "is this the place?" Lily smiled down at him. "Yes, no, this is the place." The boy in front stopped suddenly and looked straight at Ethan with a seriousness that did not match his small body. For a second their eyes locked, and Ethan felt his heart drop into his stomach. It was like looking at a smaller, purer version of himself. The boy tilted his head and opened his mouth as if about to say something that would crack the room in half. Before we go back to see how everything turned into this, pause for a second. Where are you watching from? Tell me your city or country in the comments right now, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel to support our growth so you don't miss what happens next. Now let's go back to where it all started, long before the Rolls-Royce, long before the triplets, back to the first time Ethan Reed decided that love was not enough. 7 years earlier, there was no Rolls-Royce, no hotel ballroom, and definitely no triplets. There was only a small rented apartment at the edge of the city and a young couple who believed that love alone could carry them through life. Ethan was not the powerful businessman people knew now. He was an ambitious sales manager who wore the same two suits to work and saved every extra coin. Lily Brooks was a quiet, soft-spoken woman who worked as a receptionist at a small clinic. She packed his lunch, ironed his shirts, and waited up for him every night no matter how late he returned. When they came back from their tiny wedding at the registry, she had stood in the kitchen with her wedding band shining under the bulb and whispered, "We don't have much, but we have each other. That's enough for me." At that time, it was enough for him too. In the first year, their biggest fight was about who would wash the plates. Ethan would come home tired, drop his bag, and collapse on the couch. Lily would tease him, "You want to be a big boss, but you can't rinse your own plate." He would complain, she would laugh, and a few minutes later they would be eating fried rice out of one bowl, shoulders touching, planning their future. They dreamed of a bigger house, a small car, and children running up and down, making noise. "I want three," Ethan had said once, tapping her nose. "Two boys and one girl, they'll carry my name." Lily had smiled, leaned into his chest, and whispered, "As long as they're healthy and happy, I don't care if it's 1 or 10. But the months passed. A year, then 2, then 3. The laughter did not sound the same anymore. At first people asked harmless questions. "Any good news yet? We're waiting for our little flower girl." "Oh," Lily would smile and say, "in God's time." Ethan would laugh it off and say they were not in a hurry. But at night, when the lights were off and the room fell quiet, the words would return like echoes. He would stare at the ceiling while Lily lay beside him, her hand resting on his chest, both of them listening to the silence. The pressure started slowly, like water dripping into a bucket. At his office, his colleagues joked, "Oga Ethan, you better hurry before your wife forgets how to carry a baby." At family gatherings, his mother would pull him aside and speak in a low, sharp voice. "I told you to think well before you married her. Did you check anything? Did you listen when I said you needed a strong, fruitful woman?" Ethan would clench his jaw and tell her to stop, but her words went home with him. They sat in the corners of the room, watching him, whispering. By the fourth year, the jokes no longer sounded like jokes. They sounded like judgment. Ethan began to change. It was not sudden like a door slamming shut. It was slow like a door closing inch by inch. First, he stopped coming home as early as he used to. "There's traffic," he would say. "I had a late meeting." Then he stopped eating the food Lily cooked most nights, choosing instead to eat at expensive restaurants with clients. When she asked, "Did you like your lunch?" he would shrug and say, "It was okay," without even looking at her. The hardest blow came the day his mother came to visit unannounced. The apartment was tidy, the table was set, and Lily wore a simple yellow dress, her hair tied in a scarf as she finished stirring a pot of soup. She greeted her mother-in-law with a warm smile, but the older woman barely glanced at her. She muttered, looking around. "So this is where my son is suffering." During the meal, she talked nonstop about children. "Look at your cousin," she told Ethan. "3 children in 5 years, a man needs heirs. Who will carry your name if you waste all your time with one woman who gives you nothing?" Lily sat there, holding her spoon, her appetite gone. Ethan did not say a word in her defense. He kept eating, eyes fixed on his plate. That silence cut deeper than any insult. That night when his mother left, Lily sat on the edge of their bed, her hands shaking slightly. "Ethan," she said quietly, "we need to see a doctor, both of us. Maybe there's something we can do, maybe it's something simple." Her voice was gentle, hopeful. Ethan was sitting by the window, scrolling through his phone. He did not look at her. "We're fine," he replied. "You're the one who needs to pray." She swallowed. "This isn't about prayer alone, the doctor at my clinic said." He snapped his head toward her. "What did the doctor at your clinic say? That I'm the problem?" His voice was cold now, sharp. Lily felt her eyes burn, but she kept her voice calm. "He said sometimes the problem can come from the man, sometimes the woman, sometimes both. He said it's better for both people to run tests, just tests, please Ethan, for us." For a long moment he just stared at her. His pride stood between them like a wall. Finally he exhaled. "Fine," he said, "we'll go, but remember one thing, Lily, my body is fine, I know it, I feel it. If there is any problem, it's not me." A week later they sat together in a small hospital waiting room. The walls were painted pale blue. A cartoon drawing of a smiling baby looked down at them from a poster. Couples sat side by side, some holding hands tightly, some not talking at all. Lily's heart hammered in her chest. She kept squeezing her fingers until they hurt. Ethan sat with his legs crossed, phone in hand, scrolling through emails as if he were at a business lounge, not in a fertility clinic. When the nurse finally called their names, Lily almost jumped. Inside the doctor's office, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and tired shoulders greeted them. "Mr. and Mrs. Reed, right?" he asked. They nodded. He went through their files, asked a long list of questions, and nodded slowly. "We will run some tests," he said at last. "Blood tests for both of you, hormone levels, scans for madam, and a semen analysis for sir." Lily nodded eagerly. Ethan's jaw tightened. The doctor explained the process, wrote down dates, and said, "It's important you both come with open minds. There is no shame in this. The goal is to find a solution." After they left the office, Ethan's mood had shifted. In the car, he kept his eyes on the road, gripping the steering wheel too hard. "I don't like that man," he muttered, "talking as if I'm the one with a problem." Lily turned in her seat to face him. "He never said that, he was just doing his job." Ethan snorted. "You and that clinic of yours, now you want to bring strangers into our home. I told you, Lily, I am fine." She watched his profile, the hard line of his mouth, the anger sitting under his skin. She knew then that even if the test results came back, he might never accept them. But she also knew she could not keep living in fear of the truth. When the test day came, Lily followed every instruction they had been given. Blood tests, ultrasounds, scans. She let the nurse draw blood from her arm and smiled weakly when the woman said, "You're doing well." Ethan, however, found reasons to delay his part. "I have a big meeting," he said. "The timing is bad." Another time, the traffic was too much. The third time, he simply didn't show up at all. After the third missed appointment, the doctor called Lily into his office alone. She sat down, her heart cold. He looked at her with gentle eyes. "Mrs. Reed, I have gone through all your results," he said. "Everything is fine. Your body is capable of carrying a child. There is no medical reason you cannot conceive." Her breath caught in her throat. "So it's not me," she whispered. The doctor shook his head. "Medically, you are okay. Without your husband's test, I cannot complete the picture, but based on what we see, you are not the issue here." Her fingers pressed into her skirt as tears filled her eyes, not from joy, from a mix of relief and anger. Relief that she was not broken, anger that she had been made to feel like she was. "Doctor," she said in a small voice, "if my husband refuses to take his test, what do I do?" The doctor sighed. You cannot force him, but you can decide how long you are willing to suffer in silence. This is not your shame to carry alone. He leaned forward slightly. Listen to me, Lily. A healthy marriage is built on truth, not pride. If he refuses to look at the truth, the weight of his pride will crush you. Don't let it. Those words stayed with her long after she left the hospital. Outside, her best friend Rachel was waiting under a tree, holding 2 bottles of water. She worked at another clinic across town and had rushed over on her lunch break. How did it go? She asked, searching Lily's face. They sat on a bench, the wind blowing gently around them. For a moment, Lily could not speak. When she finally found her voice, it came out as a whisper. Rachel, I'm not the problem. She told her everything the doctor said. Rachel's eyes filled with a hot, sharp anger. So all these years he has been calling you names, making you feel like you're dust, and he's the one who won't even do his test. Lily wiped her cheeks. He won't accept it, she said. Even if the doctor tells him himself, he will say they are lying. He listens more to gossip and his mother than to science. Rachel leaned closer. Then you need to listen to yourself. You are not barren, you are not cursed, you are not what they say. Do you understand me? Lily nodded slowly, but the fear did not fully leave her eyes. What if he never believes me? She whispered. What if he throws me away? Rachel took her hand. Then let him throw you away, she said softly but firmly. Because if he cannot stand by you in truth, then he does not deserve you at all. That evening, when Ethan came home, Lily decided to try one more time. She waited until he had eaten, until he had changed out of his office clothes, until he sat on the couch scrolling through his phone. Her hands were shaking, but she kept her voice steady. Ethan, I went to see the doctor today, she started. He did not look up, and she swallowed. He said I am fine, he said my body is okay, he said we need your test to complete things. Silence, heavy and thick. Ethan's thumb stopped moving over his phone screen. Very slowly he raised his eyes to hers. There was no joy in his face, no relief, only suspicion. And you believed him? He asked. His tone was calm, too calm. Lily's heart pounded. He is a specialist, she replied. He has no reason to lie. Ethan, please, just do the test. Even if it hurts your pride, do it for us, for our marriage. His jaw clenched. So you're saying I'm the problem, he said again, louder this time. After everything I've done for you, after all the money I spend, the long hours I work so you can sit at home and cook 2 plates of rice, this is how you repay me. By calling me weak? She shook her head quickly. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we should know the truth. He stood up so fast the remote control fell from the couch. I know the truth, he snapped. The truth is that I married a woman who cannot give me a child. The truth is that people are laughing at me out there. Do you think I don't hear them at work, at family events? Ethan, how far? Ethan, your wife is still watching TV. I am the one carrying this shame. He pointed at her, his eyes burning. And you want me to sit in some room and let a stranger test me like an animal? Never. Her legs felt weak. So you would rather let me carry all the blame? She whispered. He took a step toward her, his voice dropping lower. You are the woman, he said. Your body is the one that is supposed to carry children. If there is a problem, it is with you. Stop trying to drag me into it. The words slapped her harder than any hand could. In that moment, something inside her quietly broke. That night, Lily slept with her back turned to him, her face pressed into the pillow to hide her silent tears. Ethan lay on the other side, scrolling through his phone until late. He had started talking more to a new colleague at work, a tall, loud woman named Vanessa who laughed too easily and liked to touch his arm when she spoke. At first, Lily had brushed it off. She trusted her husband. But as the months rolled by and their home grew colder, the messages on his phone grew more frequent. One day, when he left his phone on the table to take a call outside, her eyes fell on the screen. A message from Vanessa popped up. Don't worry, babe, it read. You deserve a real family, not this empty house. The words made her stomach twist. She put the phone down, her hands trembling, and walked to the kitchen. That evening, Ethan came home later than usual, smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. When she asked, "Did you eat?" he simply replied, "Vanessa ordered something for the team." That was the first time Lily truly understood that she was no longer the only woman in his life. Things moved quickly after that, too quickly. One weekend, his mother came again, this time with a softer voice. My son, she said, sitting in their living room, you are still young. Don't let the situation tie you down. You need children. You need someone who can give you heirs. Meanwhile, Lily stood in the kitchen, listening from behind the door, her heart beating so loudly she could barely hear the rest. She heard her own name only as a problem to be solved, as if she were an old chair taking up space. A few weeks later, Ethan came home with a strange calm on his face. He sat at the dining table and waited until Lily came out from the bedroom where she had been folding clothes. Sit, he said. His voice was flat, cold. Her legs felt heavy as she pulled out a chair. He took a white envelope from his briefcase and placed it on the table between them. It looked simple, thin, but it felt like a weapon. What is that? She asked quietly. Idem, he replied, for both of us. He pushed it toward her. She picked it up with shaking fingers, opened it, and saw the words staring at her from the top of the papers, divorce. Her mind went blank for a moment. The room seemed to tilt. Ethan, what is this? She whispered, even though she already knew. He leaned back in his chair. I've thought about this for a long time, he said. We've tried. It's not working. I need children, Lily. I can't waste my life waiting for a miracle that will never come. Vanessa understands me. She wants a family. My family. He looked at her as if she were a business contract, not a woman who had shared his bed for 7 years. Tears spilled down her face, but her voice remained strangely calm. "So that's it," she said. "After everything, after all the years, the prayers, the nights we cried together, you just hand me papers and tell me to go." He shrugged. "I'll be fair, I've added a small settlement. It's enough to start a new life. You can go back to your clinic work. You're still young. Maybe you'll find someone else who doesn't care about children." The words twisted like knives. He was still blaming her, still refusing to face the truth. Slowly, Lily placed the papers on the table and looked up at him. For the first time in a long while, there was no pleading in her eyes, no begging, only a deep, quiet sadness mixed with something new, a tiny spark of strength. "Ethan," she said softly, "one day you will know the truth, and when that day comes, I pray you remember this moment." He frowned. "What truth? That you couldn't give me what I needed?" She shook her head. "No, the truth that you threw away the wrong person." Her words hung in the air between them. He scoffed and stood up. "Just sign the papers, Lily," he said. "The lawyer will come tomorrow to collect them." Then he walked away, leaving her alone at the table with the envelope, the memories, and the weight of 7 years pressing down on her chest. She sat there for a long time, staring at the documents. Her fingers brushed over the lines where her name was printed, where her signature was expected. The doctor's words came back to her like a quiet voice in the storm. "This is not your shame to carry alone. You are not the issue here." Rachel's voice followed. "If he refuses to look at the truth, the weight of his pride will crush you. Don't let it." With tears blurring her vision, Lily picked up a pen from the table. Her hand hovered over the dotted line, shaking, her heart breaking and hardening at the same time. She knew that once she signed, nothing would be the same again. She would walk out of this house not as Mrs. Reed, but as a woman who had been cast aside, blamed for something that was never her fault. But she also knew something else deep down, under all the pain. This might be the beginning of a new version of her life that even Ethan could never control. Her pen touched the paper, the ink starting to form the first curve of her name, and just before she finished, her phone lit up on the table, buzzing with a call from the one person who knew the whole truth, Dr. Morgan. The phone buzzed and buzzed against the table, but Lily could not move at first. The divorce papers lay open in front of her, her name half-written, the ink still wet. It felt like life was split in two, before this envelope and after it. When the call didn't stop, she finally wiped her face with the back of her hand and picked up the phone without even checking the screen. Her voice came out small. "Hello. Lily, it's Dr. Morgan," the calm voice said on the other end. For a second she forgot how to breathe. She sat up straighter. "Doctor," she whispered, "is everything okay?" "I tried calling you twice this week," he said gently. "I'm glad you picked up. Do you have a moment to come by my office? It's important. I didn't want to say it over the phone." Her eyes dropped to the divorce papers. Can you tell me now?" she asked. Her voice shook. "My life is kind of breaking apart at this moment." There was a small silence on the line, like the doctor was choosing his words carefully. "Lily, this is something you should hear face to face," he replied. "Please, if you can, come tomorrow morning. I'll make time." She pressed her lips together, thinking. Ethan was expecting the signed papers the next day. Maybe it didn't matter anymore, maybe it was already over, but something in the doctor's voice felt heavy, like a box carrying a truth she had waited years to touch. "Okay," she said finally, "I'll come." After the call ended, she sat there in the quiet room. The clock on the wall ticked, the fridge hummed. In another corner of the city, Ethan was probably laughing over dinner with someone else. Slowly, with tears still sliding down her cheeks, Lily closed the envelope with the divorce papers and put it back into his briefcase. She decided she would not sign anything until she heard whatever Dr. Morgan had to say. The next morning, the sky was gray and heavy, as if it too had not slept well. Lily wrapped a simple cardigan over her dress and took a bus to the hospital. She did not call Ethan. She did not leave a note. She just left the keys on the table where he could see them and walked out. The hospital lobby smelled of antiseptic and coffee, the same way it always did, but today everything felt sharper, louder. She checked in at the front desk and was told to go straight to Dr. Morgan's office. When she stepped in, he stood up at once. His eyes softened when he saw her face. "Lily," he said quietly, "please sit down." She sat at the edge of the chair, her hands clenched together in her lap. "Doctor, what is it?" she asked. "You sounded serious." He nodded and took a file from his desk drawer. It was thicker than she expected. He opened it slowly, her heart knocked against her ribs. "We did a lot of tests on you," he started. "I explained the results the last time. You are healthy, your reproductive system is fine, there is no medical reason you should not be able to conceive." She nodded. "Yes, I remember," she whispered. "You said I'm not the problem, but my husband, he refused to do his part." Dr. Morgan looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. "That's where things get complicated," he said. "About 4 months ago your husband came here, alone." Lily blinked. What? He continued. He came during his lunch break. He did not come with you. He told the nurse not to document it under your joint file at first, but she recognized his name and we connected it later. Lily's breath hitched. He did his test, she asked in shock. He told me he would never do it. He said it was all my fault. The doctor turned the file so she could see the papers inside. He did it, he said softly. We ran the semen analysis twice, and Lily, the results were clear. He pointed to the lines on the report, the numbers and terms she didn't fully understand. His sperm count is extremely low. His motility is poor. In simple words, it would be very, very difficult for him to father a child naturally. The issue is not you, it is him. The room spun for a second. She gripped the edges of the chair to keep from falling. He knew, she whispered. All this time he knew. I called to schedule a follow-up, Dr. Morgan said. He came once. I explained everything gently, gave options, talked about treatments, alternatives, even adoption, but he refused to accept it. He told me the test must be wrong. He said no one in his family ever had such a problem. He left the office angry. The doctor's voice grew sad. I tried to convince him to bring you so we could talk together. He refused. He said there was no need to involve you. Lily's eyes filled with hot tears, but they were not the same kind of tears as before. This time they mixed with a fierce, shaking anger. So he went around telling everybody that I was barren, that I was a shame to him, she said slowly, while he already knew the truth. Dr. Morgan nodded faintly. Yes, he said. I'm sorry, Lily, I tried to reach him. When I couldn't, I tried to reach you. This truth is heavy, but it belongs to you too. You have carried a lie on your back for too long. She covered her face with her hands and let the sobs come. Years of blame, whispers, side comments, her mother-in-law's sharp tongue, Ethan's coldness, the nights of crying into her pillow, all of it crashed together and poured out of her. The doctor waited quietly. When she finally looked up, her cheeks were wet but her eyes were burning. Thank you, she said, her voice raw. Thank you for telling me. Lily, he said gently, I don't know what you will do with this information. I cannot tell you how to live your life. But I need you to understand one thing: you are not broken, your worth is not tied to a pregnancy, and you do not owe your silence to someone who hides behind pride. She nodded slowly. Those words sank deep into her chest, into the place that had been empty for so long. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future that did not have Ethan in it. It scared her, but it also felt like air after being underwater too long. After she left the hospital, she called Rachel. They met at a small cafe near the bus stop. The moment Rachel saw her face, she stood up and pulled her into a tight hug. What happened? She asked. Lily sat down and told her everything, the secret test, the results, the lies. By the time she finished, Rachel's hands were shaking with anger. I knew it, she hissed. I knew something was off. He looked too relaxed, blaming you every time, so he knew. All this time he knew. Lily stared at the table. He gave me divorce papers yesterday, she said quietly. He said I'm wasting his life. He said I can go start over with someone who doesn't care about children. The whole time he was the one. Her voice broke. Rachel reached across the table and took her hands. Listen to me, she said firmly. Sign those papers, not because you're guilty, but because you are done carrying a man who refuses to face the truth. Walk away, Lily. Walk away with your head high. That night, Lily went back to the apartment with a different kind of calm. She did not wait for Ethan to come home. She sat at the table, pulled out the divorce papers, and read every word slowly, carefully. At the bottom where her name waited, she picked up the pen again. This time her hand did not shake. Her heart still hurt, but it was no longer begging. It was choosing. She signed, not as a defeated woman, but as someone quietly stepping out of a prison she had lived in for 7 years. When Ethan came home close to midnight, smelling of cologne and expensive wine, he saw the envelope sitting on the table. You signed? He asked, almost surprised. She nodded. Yes, she said simply. I signed. He picked it up and flipped through the pages. Good, he said. It's better this way. He didn't ask where she had been. He didn't ask why her eyes looked different. He didn't know that the truth about him was now in her hands, sitting silently on her tongue like a sharp blade. She didn't throw it at him. She didn't scream, "You're the problem," even though part of her wanted to. Instead, she did something that shook him far more. She stood up, picked up a small suitcase she had already packed, and walked toward the door. Where are you going? He asked, frowning. To start the life you said I could have, she replied. But not in shame. I know the truth now, Ethan, and one day so will you. He stared at her, confused, annoyed, but too proud to ask what she meant. Don't try to blame me later when you're alone and miserable, he said. You had a good life here. Lily turned, her hand on the door handle. No, she said softly. I had a small life here, a life where I was always less. I'm done with that. She opened the door and stepped out into the cool night air, closing that chapter behind her. For the first few months, life was hard. She moved in with Rachel, sharing a small 2-bedroom apartment. She found work again at a clinic, this time in a bigger part of the city. She woke up early, took long bus rides, and came home late. There were nights when she lay on the small couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she had done the right thing. She had no husband, no children, and barely any savings. But she also had something she hadn't felt in years: peace. No one was blaming her for something that wasn't her fault. No one was measuring her worth by her womb. At the clinic, she met all kinds of people: tired mothers, worried fathers, sick children, lonely old women. She greeted each one with a soft smile, helped them fill forms, held their hands when they were scared. One afternoon, an elderly woman in a wheelchair came in, shivering even under a thick shawl. Lily knelt beside her, rubbed her hands gently, and spoke to her in a calm, soothing voice. "You're safe here," she said. "We'll take good care of you." The woman smiled weakly. "You remind me of my granddaughter," she whispered. "She has a soft heart like yours." 2 days later, a tall man in a neat gray suit walked up to the reception desk and asked for Lily by name. His suit looked expensive, but his eyes carried a tired sadness. "I wanted to say thank you," he said when she came out to meet him. "My grandmother hasn't stopped talking about the kind nurse who stayed with her till she fell asleep." Lily smiled shyly. "I was just doing my job," she said. He shook his head. "A lot of people do their job without heart," he replied. "You do it with both hands and your heart. That's different." His name was James Cole, a businessman who owned a growing chain of wellness centers and private clinics across the city. Over the next few weeks, he started dropping by the clinic more often, sometimes under the excuse of checking on his grandmother, who was recovering well. He watched how Lily treated patients, how she calmed crying children, how she spoke gently to worried relatives. One day, he waited until her shift ended and walked with her to the bus stop. "What do you really want in life, Lily?" he asked suddenly as they waited. She blinked, surprised by the question. I don't know," she said honestly. "For so long, all I wanted was to be enough for someone. Now I just want to live in peace and do good where I can." He nodded thoughtfully. "You ever think about doing more with that heart of yours?" he asked. "More how?" she replied. He looked at the busy street, then back at her. "I've been trying to build wellness centers that don't feel cold and distant," he said. "Places where people are not just treated like numbers and files. I need someone who understands people, not just medicine. Someone who can build patient support programs, train staff, make sure no one feels alone. Watching you these past weeks, I think you're that kind of person." Lily stared at him, her mouth slightly open. "Me?" she asked. "I'm just a receptionist." He smiled softly. "No," he said, "you are a bridge between fear and calm, between confusion and understanding. That's a gift. I can teach you the business side, the heart part you already have." He offered her a new job, better pay, more responsibility, training, and a chance to grow. It felt like a door swinging open in a room she didn't know existed. She went home that night and told Rachel everything. Her friend's eyes grew wide. "Lily, this is your chance," she said, almost bouncing. "Take it. You have spent years being told you are not enough. Now someone powerful is saying you are more than enough. Don't let fear hold you back." So Lily took the job. The first months were hard. There were meetings, trainings, new systems to learn. She made mistakes. She stayed up late reading about patient care models and emotional support programs, but James was patient. He never made her feel stupid. He corrected her gently, praised her openly when she did well, and listened to her ideas. Slowly, people stopped seeing her as just a receptionist. She became the head of patient care at one center, then helped set up systems in another. Her confidence grew step by step. Over time, she and James grew closer, not just as boss and employee, but as two people who had both known loss. He told her about his father, who had died when he was a teenager, leaving him to support his mother and grandmother. She told him about Ethan and the years of blame. She told him about Dr. Morgan's report and how the man she loved had chosen pride over truth. James listened quietly, not judging, not trying to fix it, just listening. One evening, as they left the office together, he said, "The fact that you still care about people after all that says a lot about who you are." Feelings grew slowly, like a plant that refuses to die, pushing through cracks in concrete to find the sun. Lily found herself looking forward to their conversations, the way he respected her opinions, the way he checked if she had eaten, the way he never used her past as a weapon. But she was also afraid. Afraid to trust again, afraid to hope. One rainy evening, when he drove her home because the buses were full, he parked outside Rachel's apartment and turned to her. "I don't want to rush you," he said quietly. "I know you've been hurt, but I need you to know something. When I look at you, I don't see a woman who was left. I see a woman who walked away from a lie. I see someone strong." She looked down at her hands. "What if it happens again?" she whispered. "What if I give my heart and I'm blamed again, left again?" He paused, then answered, "I can't promise life won't hurt you, no one can, but I can promise that if you walk this road with me, I will walk in truth. I won't blame you for my shadows. If there's ever a problem, we will face it together, not hide it behind your back." His words sat with her for days. She prayed, she talked to Rachel. She sat alone on the small balcony at night and watched the city lights, thinking. Finally, one morning, she called him. "James," she said, her voice steady for once. "I'm still scared, but I'm willing to try." They didn't rush into a big wedding. They had a small, simple ceremony with only close friends and family. Rachel cried the loudest, cheering and clapping. Dr. Morgan came too, smiling like a proud uncle. When the efficient asked, "Do you, James, take Lily?" his voice did not shake. When he asked Lily the same, she looked into James's eyes and saw no pride, no hidden anger, just a quiet promise. "I do," she said. This time those two words felt like freedom, not a cage. Months passed, their marriage was not perfect, but it was honest. They argued sometimes about money, about work, about who forgot to buy groceries, but they apologized, talked, made up. They prayed together, they laughed a lot. The house did not feel heavy, it felt alive. They didn't pressure themselves about children at first. Lily needed time, but one afternoon she felt tired in a way that was different. Her body felt strange. Rachel raised an eyebrow and shoved a small test kit into her hand. "Just do it," she said. "What's the worst that can happen?" Lily locked herself in the bathroom, hands shaking as she followed the instructions. She set the test down and waited, her heart racing. When she finally looked, her breath left her body in a rush. 2 lines, she stared and stared, thinking her eyes were lying. "Rachel," she shouted, her friend burst in. "What happened? Are you okay?" Lily held up the test with trembling fingers. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Rachel screamed, grabbed her, and spun her around the tiny bathroom. They laughed and cried at the same time. Later that evening, Lily told James. He went quiet and sat down, tears filling his eyes before he could stop them. "Are you sure?" he asked. She nodded, smiling through her tears. "We can go to the doctor to confirm, but yes." He pulled her into his arms and held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "Thank you," he whispered into her hair. "Thank you for not giving up on love. Thank you for not giving up on yourself." At the hospital, Dr. Morgan ran tests and smiled at the screen. "Everything looks good," he said. "Strong heartbeat." Then he frowned slightly. Lily's heart jumped. "What is it?" she asked quickly. He zoomed in. "Well," he said slowly, "I think we have more than one." He moved the scanner again. "Actually, we have 3. He turned the screen so they could see triplets. Lily's mouth fell open. James gripped her hands so hard she almost winced. "3, she whispered. 3 bobbies," Dr. Morgan nodded, grinning. 3, sometimes life pays you back in ways you never expected. Tears blurred her vision. She remembered Ethan's voice saying, "You can't even give me one child," and almost laughed through her sobs. Not 1, 3. The pregnancy was not easy. There were days she was so tired she could barely stand. There were extra checkups, careful diets, sleepless nights, but James was there at every step. He held her hair when she was sick. He massaged her feet when they swelled. He spoke to her belly at night, telling the bobbies about the world they were coming into. Rachel moved in for a while to help, turning their home into a loud, warm nest of jokes and baby name arguments. When the triplets finally arrived, 3 healthy boys with loud voices and bright eyes, the delivery room felt like heaven had opened for a moment. Lily cried as she held them one by one, whispering, "You are wanted, you are loved, you are not a mistake." They named them Noah, Liam, and Evan. Each boy had a slightly different shade of hair, a slightly different personality even as newborns. But they all had one thing in common, those hazel eyes that seemed to carry stories already. Years rolled by, the boys grew fast. Noah was the serious one, always watching, always thinking. Liam was the loud, playful one, always laughing and running. Evan was the curious one, always asking questions, always touching things he shouldn't. Their home was noisy, messy, alive. There were toys on the floor, crayon marks on the walls, tiny socks disappearing in the wash, but Lily never complained. Every shout of "Mom" felt like music. Every tiny hand tugging at her dress was a reminder that she was not barren, not cursed, not broken. Meanwhile, Ethan's life looked shiny from the outside. His business deals worked. He made bold investments and saw huge returns. He upgraded from a small office to tall glass buildings. People called him sir and boss and laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny. He married Vanessa soon after the divorce in a big flashy wedding with fireworks and cameras. But the marriage was built on pride, not truth. They smiled in pictures and fought in private. When no children came after 2 years, the whispering started again, this time at his new in-laws' house. Vanessa snapped at him one night. "Maybe it's you," he exploded. The fights became frequent, ugly. She begged him to see a doctor again. He refused. He couldn't face the report that already existed. Instead, he blamed her, called her names, accused her of being the problem. The pattern repeated itself, just with a different woman. After a few years, Vanessa had enough. She walked out. They divorced. Ethan threw himself deeper into work, building more wealth as if money could fill the emptiness inside him. Now he was older, richer, and more alone than before. When he met Chloe, a beautiful event planner who loved attention and posted everything online, he convinced himself that this time would be different. She didn't pressure him about kids at first. She loved the trips, the gifts, the lifestyle. When they got engaged, she made it clear she wanted the biggest wedding the city had seen that year. Ethan agreed. Maybe he thought a perfect wedding would finally prove to the world that his life was perfect too. One evening, as they sat with the wedding planner going over the guest list, Chloe tapped her pen against the table. "You know what would really show everyone you've moved on," she said. "Invite your ex-wife." Ethan froze. "What?" She shrugged. "You're a successful man now, you've grown. She's, I don't know, probably still working at some small clinic. Invite her. It will show everyone that you are generous and above old drama." Ethan leaned back thinking, part of him didn't want to reopen that chapter. Another part of him, the proud, angry part that still hated how she walked away without begging, liked the idea. He pictured her coming in a cheap dress, maybe sitting at the back, watching him marry a younger, better woman. People would see how far he had come. Fine, he said at last, send her an invitation. The wedding invite reached Lily on a quiet Friday afternoon. She found it in her mailbox, a thick cream envelope with gold writing. She opened it in the kitchen while the boys chased each other around the living room, their laughter filling the house. When she saw Ethan's name printed next to Chloe, her chest tightened for a moment. Then she let out a slow breath. It didn't hurt the way she thought it would. It felt distant, like a bruise that had already healed. That night she showed the invitation to James. He read it and looked at her carefully. "How do you feel?" he asked. She shrugged. "Surprised," she said. "A little angry, a little amused. I don't know why he wants me there." James rested the card on the table. "You don't owe him." She nodded. "I know." She looked toward the hallway where the boys were arguing about whose toy car was faster. "But a part of me wants to stand there, not as the broken woman he threw away, but as the woman I became after he left, not to rub it in his face, just to show myself I'm really free." James studied her expression, then he smiled. "If you decide to go, you're not going there as a victim," he said. "You're going there as Lily Cole, mother of 3, director of patient care programs in 5 centers and the love of my life." He tapped the invitation. "And you're not taking a bus." On the day of the wedding, James had to travel for an important business meeting in another city scheduled months before. He felt bad about it, but Lily shook her head. "It's okay," she said. "This is something I can handle." Still, he refused to let her go in silence. He called his driver, pointed to the garage, and said, "Take the Rolls." Lily laughed the first time she saw it, the shiny black car that seemed to swallow light and throw it back. "James, this is too much," she said. "It's not too much for my wife," he replied. "You have spent enough of your life shrinking yourself. Today, walk in your full height, not for him, for you, and if fate wants to teach him something, let fate do its work." She wore a deep blue gown that fell softly around her, the same color as the one she would later wear at the hotel. Her curls were pinned up with silver clips. Noah, Liam, and Evan stood in front of her in their tiny suits, fidgeting. "Mom," Liam said, "why are we going to this wedding again?" She knelt down to their level. "We're going to support someone I used to know," she said gently. "I want you to be on your best behavior, okay? No running, no shouting, no fighting over toys." Evan grinned. "Can we eat cake?" She smiled. "If they offer you cake, you can eat, but remember to say thank you." Noah watched her face quietly. "Are you okay, Mom?" he asked in a small voice, always the one who saw the things others missed. She cupped his cheek. "I'm okay," she said. "I'm better than okay, I have you 3. The ride to the hotel felt like a movie. As the Rolls-Royce rolled through the city, people turned to stare. The boys pressed their faces to the window, pointing at tall buildings and colorful billboards. Lily sat back, her fingers clasped around a small clutch purse, her mind strangely calm. 7 years ago, she had left a small apartment with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. Today, she was arriving at her ex-husband's wedding with a full life and 3 miracles holding her hands. When the car pulled up in front of the hotel, the doorman almost rushed to open the door before the wheels stopped. Phones came out instantly. Guests standing outside paused mid-conversation. The driver stepped out and opened the door. Lily took a deep breath and stepped onto the red carpet, the boys climbing out after her. The air seemed to change. Conversations dipped. Eyes widened. Inside the ballroom, music played, flowers glowed under soft lights, and Ethan checked his watch, irritated, thinking about his schedule, his image, his perfect day. Then the deep purr of the Rolls-Royce engine echoed through the glass. Moments later, the doors opened. The room froze. The woman he had once called Baron walked in, wearing that blue gown, head held high, 3 little boys at her side. One of them, Noah, stopped halfway and stared straight at him, those hazel eyes reflecting the chandelier light. He let go of Lily's hand and took a small step forward, his gaze never leaving Ethan's face. The room went silent as the boy opened his mouth, about to say the one word that could shatter everything Ethan thought he knew about his life. Noah's small chest rose and fell as he looked up at Ethan. The hall was so quiet you could hear the air conditioner humming. Waiters froze with trays in their hands. Chloe's fake smile faded as she followed the boy's gaze. The band at the corner slowed, then stopped playing altogether. Noah took another step forward, his shoes making soft sounds on the marble floor. Everyone leaned in without meaning to. Their eyes bounced from the boy's face to Ethan and back again. Ethan's heart pounded so loudly he could hear it in his ears. He didn't know why his hands felt cold. He didn't know why this little boy's eyes felt like a mirror. Noah pointed a small finger at him. "Mom," he said, his voice clear and a little too loud because of the microphone near the front, "is that the man?" The question hung in the air, people frowned, confused. "What man?" someone whispered. Chloe looked around, annoyed. "What is this?" she muttered. Lily's feet felt heavy. She had hoped the boys would simply walk in quietly, sit at the back, and leave without any scene. She had told them a soft version of her story months ago when they were asking why they only saw pictures of Daddy James and never of any other man. She kept it simple. There was once a man who didn't see her value, who hurt her, who walked away. She never said his name. She never said where he was. She never planned for this moment to happen under bright lights and flowers. Now that moment was standing in front of her in a tiny suit. Noah turned fully to face her, his voice still carrying. "Mom," he repeated, "is that the man who threw you away because he thought you could not have Bobbies?" The words slammed into the room like thunder. Gasps rolled across the chairs like a wave. Someone's hand flew to their mouth. Glass clinked as a waiter almost dropped a champagne flute. The DJ at the back whispered "Jesus" under his breath. Ethan's face went from confident to blank. All the blood seemed to drain out. He felt every pair of eyes stab into him. Chloe's head snapped toward him so fast her earrings swung. "What is he talking about?" she demanded. Her voice shook, half angry, half afraid. Lily's own heart was racing, but her voice when it came was calm. She stepped forward and put a hand on Noah's shoulder. "Noah," she said gently, "that's enough." But Noah wasn't finished. He turned back to Ethan, who still had not said a word. "My mom cried a lot before," he said, his child's voice soft but clear in the quiet hall. "She said there was a man who blamed her for something that was not her fault. She said God gave her a new family and 3 boys to show she was never broken." He looked Ethan straight in the eye, confused innocence mixing with quiet strength. "Are you that man?" he asked. It was a simple question, but it cracked open every lie. Chloe's face hardened. She turned away from the boy and faced Ethan fully now, stepping closer so only a little space stood between them. "Tell me he's lying," she said, her tone sharp. "Tell me right now that this is not true." Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came out. All he could see were the 3 boys, their faces, their eyes, their ages. He did quick, desperate math in his head. How many years since the divorce? How old did they look? 4 or 5? His mind screamed that it was impossible they were his, but another voice whispered that it didn't even matter. The point was not whose blood they carried. The point was that they existed. She had children, 3, and he did not. The crowd began to murmur. People turned to their neighbors. "Is that his ex-wife? Wait, didn't they say she was barren? But look at those kids." The whispers dug deeper than any knife. Lily could have turned around and walked out. She could have taken her sons and left them all to choke on their own questions. But something inside her said, "Not this time. You will not leave like a scared woman. You will stand like a woman who knows the truth." She took a slow breath, then walked forward with Noah, Liam, and Evan by her side. Near the front, one of the hotel cameras swung to follow her. The big screen behind the stage, which had been showing soft flowers and the couple's initials, flicked over to the live feed, and suddenly her face and the boys' faces were up there for everyone to see. She did not flinch. "Ethan," she said quietly when she reached speaking distance. She did not call him honey or dear or any old name, just his name. He swallowed. "What do you want, Lily?" he said, trying to keep his voice steady, but it came out thin. "You didn't have to come if you wanted to make trouble." She almost laughed at that. "I didn't come to make trouble," she replied. "I came because you invited me." Her eyes moved around the room, past the flowers, past the cake, past the shocked faces. "You sent me that card, you asked me to be here, I thought maybe you had grown, I see now why you wanted me here." Chloe folded her arms. "Why?" she snapped. "Tell us, since you seem to know everything." Lily turned to her, her voice stayed soft but her words were clear. "He wanted to show me his new life," she said, "to prove that he moved on and I stayed behind. He thought I would come looking poor and sorry, sit at the back and watch him be happy." She looked back at Ethan. "Isn't that right?" Someone near the front said, "Wow," under their breath. A few people shook their heads. Ethan's chest rose and fell faster now. "You're twisting things," he said. "You don't know what you're saying." But his eyes kept darting to the boys whose very existence killed the lie he had told for years. From one of the tables near the front, a man in a simple dark suit stood up slowly. He had kind eyes and carried himself like someone used to bad news and heavy secrets. Lily knew that walk. Her breath caught as Dr. Morgan made his way toward the front. He had been invited by one of the wealthy guests whose wife he had treated for a health scare. He had not expected to see his old patient here in this kind of fire. He stopped between them, facing Ethan. "Mr. Reed," he said calmly, "it has been a long time." Recognition flashed across Ethan's face like lightning. "You," he whispered. The guests looked between them, feeling that something important was about to be said. Chloe frowned. Who is this? She demanded. Dr. Morgan did not raise his voice, but somehow everyone heard him. My name is Dr. Morgan, he said. I am a fertility specialist. Years ago, both of you, he glanced at Lily, came to my clinic as a couple. You wanted help. A buzz went through the crowd, people leaned forward. Chloe's parents exchanged a quick, worried look. I ran tests on Lily, the doctor continued. Her results were normal and healthy. I recommended a semen analysis for Mr. Reed here. He refused at first. Later, he came back alone and did it without telling her. All the color drained from Chloe's face. She took a step back. Alone, she repeated. Ethan's hands balled into fists. You have no right, he began, but Dr. Morgan held up a hand. I am speaking now because my silence has helped to keep a lie alive, he said firmly. I will not break confidentiality by sharing your numbers or details, but I will say this, your test showed a serious problem. I told you clearly then, I asked you to bring your wife so we could talk together. You refused. You told me there was no need. And shortly after, you divorced her and let the world blame her for something that was not hers. The room exploded with whispers. Some people covered their mouths. Others stared at Ethan like they had never seen him before. A few guests who had known the old story, Lily was barren, poor thing, he had to move on, felt shame burn in their cheeks. Chloe's voice shook with anger now. Is this true? She yelled. Ethan, answer me, is this true? He looked trapped like an animal with no way out. He's lying, he said weakly. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Dr. Morgan's eyes did not move. Do you really want to stand here in front of all these people and say that? He asked. Because I still have your file, and I am ready to go under oath if you force me to. I am not your enemy, Mr. Reed, but you have hurt this woman for years with a story you know is not true. Silence fell again, this time heavier. The DJ quietly switched off the mic he had been using for light jokes. No one laughed now. Chloe stared at Ethan like she was seeing him for the first time. All the pictures she had posted, all the videos she had planned for her perfect wedding suddenly felt like cheap plastic. You told me she couldn't have kids, she said slowly. You said she was the reason you had no children, that you tried everything. You made me feel sorry for you. You made me look at her like she was the villain. She pointed at Lily, whose hand still rested on Noah's shoulder. But she has 3 boys standing right there, healthy, strong, and you had a doctor telling you the problem was you. Her face twisted. Do you know what that makes you, Ethan? A liar, a coward, and worse, a man who would throw a woman under the bus to protect his ego. A few people clapped once, then stopped, shocked at themselves, but no one told her to calm down. Ethan reached out a hand toward Chloe. Listen, he said quickly. Baby, it's not like that. This doctor is making it sound worse than it was. The test could have been wrong, and those children, he glanced at the triplets, desperate for one saving point. Those children are not even. Lily spoke up, cutting him off. These boys are not your concern, she said. They were never your promise. They are my gift, mine and James. Their father is not here because he trusts me to walk into any room with my head up. I did not come here to fight. She looked at Dr. Morgan. Thank you, doctor, that is enough. He nodded and stepped back. He had said what needed to be said. The truth was in the open. Lily turned back to Ethan. Her voice softened, not for his sake but for her own heart. All these years I carried your insults like a coat I could not remove, she said. I believed I was less of a woman because I had no child. The day I found out the truth, I signed your papers and walked away. I didn't tell anyone, I didn't expose you, I just left. I built a new life. I found love that does not use my pain as a weapon. She looked down at Noah, who watched her with big eyes, then at Liam and Evan, who were gripping each other's hands tightly. These children are not here to punish you, she continued. They are here to remind me that God's timing is not man's timing, that I was never broken, that you were just blind. Ethan's voice dropped, rough with panic now. Lily, please don't do this, don't ruin my wedding. She let out a small, sad laugh. Your wedding was built on a lie, she said quietly. I didn't ruin it, you did, years ago when you decided that pride was more important than truth. All eyes turned to Chloe again. This was now her choice. She could pretend nothing had happened, smile for the camera and move on, or she could face the truth standing in front of her and decide who she wanted to be. Her jaw tightened. She reached up and pulled off the diamond ring from her finger. The gesture alone sucked all the air from the room. She held the ring up, looked at it for a long second, then pressed it into Ethan's chest. Keep your ring, she said in a low, strong voice. I will not tie my life to a man who cannot stand in truth. I want children someday, yes, but more than that I want honesty. And today I just found out you are empty in the one place that matters most, your heart. She stepped away from him, unpinned her veil with sharp movements and handed it to a stunned bridesmaid. I'm done, she said. Without waiting for an answer, she turned and walked off the stage, her heels clicking like a final beat on a dead drum. Her parents followed quickly, their faces tight with anger and embarrassment. Someone at the back whispered, "Chai," another guest muttered, "He finished himself." Before long, people started gathering their things. A few of Ethan's business partners quietly slipped out, exchanging looks that said, if he cannot be honest in his own house, how can we trust him with our deals? Ethan stood alone under the arch of flowers that had been built for a kiss that would never come. Cameras were still rolling, but no one would want to post this. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, he looked smaller than the room. He turned to Lily, desperate. "Say something," he pleaded. "Tell them I'm not a monster. Tell them you forgave me." Lily studied him for a long moment, then she nodded once. "I forgive you," she said simply. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd, even Ethan blinked, confused. "But forgiveness," she continued, "does not erase what you did. It just sets me free from carrying it. You will still have to sit with your choices. You will still have to explain to God and to yourself why you let your fear and pride destroy the people who loved you. That is not my work, that is yours." He opened his mouth to argue, to bargain, to do something, but nothing came out. No excuse could stand in front of the truth now. Lily turned away from him and faced the room. "I'm sorry you all had to see this," she said calmly. "But maybe there is a lesson here for all of us. Don't judge a woman by what you think she cannot give you. Don't believe every story you hear about someone, especially when you have only heard it from their enemy. And please teach your sons and daughters that they are more than their ability to have children. A woman's worth is not her womb. A man's worth is not his ego. Both are more than that." Some people nodded, others wiped quiet tears. A few women stared at her like she had just spoken for them too. She looked down at her boys again. "Come on," she said softly, "we've seen enough." Noah took her hand again. Liam and Evan pressed closer to her sides. As they turned to leave, Noah glanced back at Ethan one last time. There was no anger in his small face, only a kind of sad pity that no child his age should ever have to feel. "Mom," he whispered as they walked, "will he be okay?" Lily sighed. "I don't know," she said honestly. "That's between him and God. I hope one day he learns. I hope he becomes kinder, but it is not our job to wait for that. Our job is to live in truth and love the people who actually love us back." Outside, the sun was bright, almost too bright. The Rolls-Royce was still waiting, shining under the clear sky. As the driver opened the door, Lily paused and looked up for a second, letting the warmth touch her face. 7 years ago, she had left one life in the dark. Today, she was walking back into the light of another. As they drove away, the boys started talking about the cake they didn't get to eat, the flowers, the big haul. Liam said, "Mom, that place was too serious. Our house is better." Evan nodded. "Yeah, we have cartoons." Lily laughed, a real, full laugh that came from deep inside. "Yes," she said, "our house is better." She looked out the window at the city streets and thought of all the women still crying into their pillows because someone told them they were not enough. She decided that day that her story would not just end with her own happiness. With James's support, she later started a small foundation focused on women facing infertility stigma. They provided free medical advice, emotional support, and community. Dr. Morgan volunteered one weekend every month. Rachel ran workshops. Women came in with heavy hearts and left with lighter steps, not because they suddenly had all the answers, but because they finally knew they were not alone and not less. Sometimes late at night when the boys were asleep and the house was quiet, Lily would step out onto the balcony and look up at the stars. She would think of Ethan. She didn't hate him anymore. Hate would have kept her tied to him forever. Instead, she prayed for him in simple words. "God, teach him what you taught me," she would whisper. "Teach him that pride kills faster than any sickness, and that truth, even when it hurts, is the only way to live." Rumors later said his business took a hit. Some investors pulled out. Some deals fell through, but he did not die. He kept breathing. He had to face himself in the mirror every morning without the shield of a fake story, and maybe one day that would be the beginning of his own change. Whether he ever changed or not, Lily's life was no longer chained to his choices. In the end, her victory was not that she arrived at his wedding in a Rolls-Royce. It was not even that she had triplets. Her real victory was that she walked into a room built to shame her and came out unbroken, standing tall, telling the truth and choosing mercy over revenge. The best revenge she ever had was living a life so full of love, peace, and purpose that his opinion no longer mattered. That is the lesson her boys grew up with: not destroy those who hurt you, but never let those who hurt you decide your worth. Not hide your pain, but turn your pain into a path that helps others find their way. If this story touched your heart, Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, your city, your country, your little corner of the world. And if you've ever been blamed for something that was never your fault, I hope Lily's journey reminds you that the truth will always find its voice and that you are more than what someone else said about you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to support our growth and join this family of life-changing stories so you never miss the next one.